Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, potentially, for where you're joining us from. As Phil had mentioned, my name is Dan Janisek. I am with the product development team here for Digital Codes and excited to review some of the new feature enhancements with you today. All right, so what I have here on my screen is Digital Codes. I assume everybody who's joining us here today on the webinar is at least aware of the platform. But Digital Codes does offer the largest collection of building code standards and more within the space from the trusted and authentic source, as ICC is the publisher of many of these titles, and we work closely with all of those that we do license and bring the content to the platform through. The navigation here at the top allows you to drill down in a number of different ways to the contents or the titles that are most relevant for your use case. We've got our iCode standards, locations, and commentaries here along the top. Each of these allow you to drill down to the subcategories. And then the second row here is our resources, our topics, and our publisher. So each of these acts as a high-level bucket of different groupings that are available and allow you to click through to the individual category page for each value. Additionally, if you have a more targeted search that you're looking for, you can always come up here to our primary navigation bar. And notice what I'm starting with right now is a non-signed in user. So everything I'm looking at from this lens will be a basic experience. I will be signing in just a moment. I'll be showing the premium side of the house as well. But everything being shown here is available as a resource for anybody within the space. So as I click in here, by default, it's going to give up some of the most popular titles, which are pretty consistently the building of the residential codes, but the user can type in any portion of the year or title, and you will see the values here will update dynamically. And with just a single click, the user will have the ability to jump to that specific title landing page. I think this is a good opportunity for us to start with some of the recent updates and changes that were released to Digital Codes just last week. Those that have visited the site before will notice a very different looking landing page here as they consume the contents. One of the driving factors behind a lot of the feedback and a lot of the comments from users like yourselves has been a desire to make the content easier to read and more simplified to give that optimized viewing experience. So the first thing you'll notice is from the landing page, we've removed the purchase column and we've actually moved that into a CTA, which we're going to show here in a moment, so that that information is available, but at the time the user is ready to learn more about premium or make a conversion decision. What we want to do is spotlight the content that the user needs to find and ensure that they're able to quickly and easily drill into the chapter or section that have the most relevance to them. I'll pause for just a second. I saw a comment that the audio is not coming across. Phil, are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I apologize, viewer who's not able to hear. It sounds like it might be something on your end. Okay, I'm getting multiple confirmations, so thank you for that. So any user who lands on this page as a basic user, you will notice that we do have a banner here now making that very clear, so there's no obscurity. And we do go even further by saying what you have with basic and clarifying that it is a read-only access to that title, but recognize that the full contents of these titles are going to be available for the general public. Specifically reading between the lines, this is a free resource for the user to take advantage of. There's going to be more inside of premium, which we look at, but the contents themselves are a huge benefit to the entire building space. And this is going to include everything from the iCodes as well as any of the adaptable titles across the states and locales that we have available. As users get more familiar with this look and feel, the true north, if you will, is going to be available here in the upper right-hand corner, so that as you traverse from one title to the next, this clarifier will always let you know what lens you're consuming the content in for the active title. So this one here is letting me know this title is basic read only. It is unlocked, so I'm able to access this content without any issue. But then clicking on this will open up my convert to premium subscription modal if and when that time is appropriate. And we'll come back to this because not only is this now available on the landing page, but we'll have the ability for learning more about premium as we learn some of the benefits and the features available therein. The other big thing you'll notice here as we traverse across the updated landing page is the header region, which includes a breadcrumb, so the user always has context of where they exist within the application as they drill down. So this being inside the 2021 iCode category, I can click on those at any point to bring me to the category page with all of the 2021 titles, so that if I wanted to flip from building to residential, I could do so that way. I also can jump from different titles within that category with this optimized dropdown, which is going to give you the list of titles in that same category. So now with a single click, I can jump between titles without having to leave the content pages that I'm on. And whether it's iCodes or whether it's a specific state like Florida, like California, like New York, the user is able to find the section references from the different titles much more rapidly than they have been to date. And that's a common theme you're going to see throughout this is trying to make the viewing experience more efficient for finding the task at hand. And then when we navigate here to the left-hand side, our table of contents, the updates here is with the color coding, making that a little bit easier to navigate. And then everything has been updated for a consistent title case where the first letter is capitalized and everything else is lowercase, making it a little bit easier to read. You'll notice for each one of these, I can select either a chapter or I can drill down to specific subsections to go immediately to those contents. Again, the entirety of this title is going to be available for me without even having to be signed in or have a Digital Codes Premium subscription. From the lens of content, one of the big changes that we made is optimizing the width of content so that it fits a variety of different screens. The human eye doesn't lend itself easily on large screens of reading margin to margin. So this is an optimized best practice for accessibility for a line length. But what we heard even when rolling this out for a number of users is there's going to be cases with wide tables or other content where being able to take advantage of a large screen could be valuable. So what we did is we implemented this full screen toggle, which allows the user to do exactly that. The full screen will have the text snap end to end on whatever available space is there from the monitor in front of you. And you can go even wider by collapsing the TOC and really going end to end on the screen as far as you choose. So it's putting more control and more personalization in the hands of the user. And with that control, it will actually persist. So as I jump between sections or even to another chapter, you notice this will stay full screen now until I come in and I toggle this back off. So I can even jump to another title. The users, if the setting is that you want to view this full width, the application is going to remember that and it's going to preserve that setting for you until you decide to turn it back off. And you see at that point it snaps back to the default width that we had put in place. So especially with table content and other text, again, it makes that a little bit easier for the user to traverse. And the one other primary piece is in addition to the full screen, we've moved the legend here to make this a little bit easier. I had mentioned the basic read only for these titles. There's going to be one of 3 settings that'll be communicated here from the upper left-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, excuse me. And if you're wondering what those are, that information is now prevalently listed out at the top of the legend. So whereas we have titles that do require a Digital Codes Premium subscription to access, those are going to be titles like our ICC commentaries, our significant changes, a lot of the supporting materials. When the user visits those, they'll see the premium required icon that will prevent access until you have premium. And then for those that are signed in, you'll see the premium active indicated, and we're going to review that in just a moment here. The other thing prominently called out in our legend now is the different color-coded text that is available throughout our titles. And that's going to help the user identify where the content of those titles has evolved over time through the code development process. So anything that's identified in blue within the iCodes would indicate that a successful proposal was voted upon and approved, which has impacted that section since the prior cycle. Many of those base codes are further modified or amended for state usage. So the state adjustments are going to be represented in red text. And then for those that are customized further down to the local level, there could potentially be up to 3 different colors in place where the local amendments would be layered in fuchsia. And then we've got some tooltips as well for the premium users with some of the key feature functions that are available therein. Before we go into the content, I was going to jump over here to a commentary just so I could indicate for the group what this experience is going to look like for those that are a basic user that come to a title where premium is required. So again, we're going to see the lock icon. It does clarify both in the upper right-hand corner here, as well as this banner on the landing page that a premium subscription is required. And then the TOC in this case is going to be disabled. So the user can see all of the titles available within this title, but they wouldn't be able to click through without having a Digital Codes premium subscription. The breadcrumbs and the drop-down behavior all functions much the same way. But again, the limitation here is while we can traverse to the different titles, that same enforcement restriction is going to be enforced. I'm going to come back here to the iCodes. We'll jump back into the trusted IBC. And the next piece I wanted to point out is, as a basic user, how I can learn some of the additional benefits that are available to me through Premium Code Insights. So as we scroll through, the content itself is going to have these floating gold P icons after the section titles. And if I were to move my mouse over these, it gives me a little tooltip that further indicates what this means. So a Premium Code Insight is available at the end of this section. Clicking on this would actually jump me down to that row, which will further indicate which Premium Code Insights are available. And you might be asking, why do we have this at the top if it's just going to scroll you to the bottom? This example here might be a small section. There are some that are going to be much longer. So this helps you to identify where insights are available, even if the end of that section may be beneath the fold of where the page flows off. And then with these, the clarifier commentary excerpts is one example here. Gives you a description on hover, and then if we click on this, it's going to give us that full text, and it's going to let us know that there's more information available here, but this does require a Digital Codes premium subscription to obtain access to it. So we've got our CTAs to start a free trial, which would allow access to all of these features and all of these Premium Code Insight snippet pieces. And we've also got our subscribe to premium modal. And this is what I was alluding to a little bit earlier, is rather than having to convert everything from the title landing page, now we can actually support a conversion decision for the user in the scope of the content that they're interested in obtaining. And this modal was recently redesigned as well to make our premium offerings a little bit easier for the user to consume, whereas we've got our monthly and our single license as a default, but as a user considers their other options, an annual subscription or a 3-year subscription, you can see not only that the pricing updates dynamically, but it's going to call out the very large discounts that are available with these different offerings. And the same is going to be true here with our volume discounts as the number of licenses increases. You can see that by updating the annual or the number of licenses, 17% discount as opposed to going monthly, and then a 40% unit discount as opposed to going with the single license. We can see how that is reflected in the single unit, and then what the total would be at this point for 5 licenses annually of digital codes for the building code. And then additionally, we can actually flip over to Premium Complete, and we can see what that means as it relates, Premium Complete being our largest collection. It's actually over 1,600 now titles as we continue to add more and more in real time at all times. Okay. And the CTAs down here allow us to learn more about Premium as well, which is just going to take you to a page with more documentation and supporting content around the Premium feature set. The other piece we had just alluded to in the legend would be the color-coded text. So here we can see an example where this is blue. If I hover across this, it's going to open up a tooltip on this as well that does reiterate what was in the legend there. So if I forget what the blue text means and I don't want to open the legend to see it, I can actually use my mouse to confirm that, oh yeah, these are in fact technical changes since the last cycle of the iCodes. And again, as we scroll down, we can see a number of sections with blue text. And in most, if not all, wherever there is blue text, there will be accompanying Premium Code Insights. As we alluded to, the blue indicates a successful proposal from the prior cycle. The Premium Code Insights are going to provide much more context as to what specific change that was and how it came to be. Okay. So without further ado, what we're going to do is sign in now, and we'll look at these Premium Code Insights and how to use them from a Digital Codes Premium perspective. Because while the basic user is aware that all these exist, the modal would be consistent here where it lets the user know that does require premium to access. And while that is pulling up, the one other piece I wanted to show with the new designs that you'll see populated across more and more of the state and the local codes is the TOC information being communicated above the chapter list. So where there is an actual adoption and enforcement in effect, ICC is making sure to communicate the effective date and then the status of the base code and whether or not it is further amended for usage within this locale. So with Florida, for example, while it is reiterated in the About This Title region, we can see here that this cycle, the 2023, went into effect December 31st of 23, and these are all based off of the 2021 I codes with amendments. And what's really nice here is the base code is hyperlinked, so at any point we can jump from the Florida code into the base code that it originated from, and we can find all these premium code insights and additional materials contained therein. All right, so I am signed in now. As an authenticated user on digital codes, one of the other updates that went into effect recently here, and I'll hit refresh to make sure it does get picked up, is that blue banner you saw pop in at the top of the stack. That's going to remember whatever section within this title I visited in my last session, and it's going to give me an opportunity to jump directly to that to pick up where I left off. Much like for those that are familiar with streaming services, be it Netflix or Disney Plus, if you're in the middle of a movie and you get interrupted where you have to either turn it off or you have to leave and come back to it later, you don't want to have to go back and rewatch the whole movie. It's a common feature today that you pick back up where you left off. That's much the mentality that we're delivering here with digital codes, is if you're in the office, you head out to the field, but you want to find your requirement or your note that you were looking at most recently. Now you have the ability to do that with a single click, and it's going to bring you into the content directly to that section you were looking at last. And that's going to be persisted for every individual title that you visited, and that is a facet for any signed-in user. So whereas I have premium on this one, users do not have to have premium to take advantage of that continue where you left off functionality.